Okay, so stick with me for a second.
Mm.
Imagine you wake up and the air itself feels like it's vibrating.
Hmm.
Not in a scary way, but, heavy, electrically charged.
Like that moment right before a thunderstorm.
Exactly. Or that split second of total silence before a sprinter just explodes off the blocks.
Oh,
That humming tension. That is the energy of today, Friday, January 23, 2026.
it is a really distinct feeling, isn't it? I mean, if you look at the source material we have today, the phrase that keeps coming up is power day.
Right?
But I want to be careful with that word. It's not power-like, like domination. The sources are clear that beginnings have weight today. That's the key.
Which is a perfect setup because that's exactly what we're doing, a deep dive into the architecture of this moment. We've got sources here from Tarot by High C.
The astrology of the day and the StoryScope.
And the central tension in all of it, it seems to be this clash between force and flow.
That's the critical distinction. Today is a day where brute force it fails. Pushing harder won't move the wall. But intuition, acting on principle.
That's what opens the door.
That's it.
So our mission today is pretty straightforward. We're going to help you navigate this high-intensity energy without, blowing a fuse. We'll unpack the planets Moon, Mars, Neptune,
Sun, Pluto, the big ones.
and then we'll see how it all plays out in this story about a city called Axiom that, literally forgot its own soul.
It's such a perfect allegory for the astrology. It makes all the abstract stuff power shifts, identity really tangible.
Okay, so let's get into the mechanics. The weather report. Sources say the moon has moved into Aries this morning. Now, when I hear moon in Aries, I think impulsive, fiery.
A bit reckless, maybe.
Yeah, that me-first attitude, just running headfirst into a wall.
It can be that, for sure. But context is everything. Here, the source calls it direction and pulse. It's not scattered, it's a heartbeat.
A heartbeat.
Yeah, and throughout the day, this Aries moon is making what are called sextiles. They're supportive, harmonious connections to a whole lineup of heavy hitters.
Like Mars, Pluto, the sun.
Mercury and Venus, the
Right.
whole team.
So it's less like a solo sprinter and more like a rowing team, where everyone hits the water at the exact same moment.
Precisely. It's momentum. The source says teamwork gains momentum when we have clear aims. This is not a solo journey today.
So if everyone's just doing their own Aries thing, it's chaos.
Total chaos. But if you channel all that fire into a single engine, it's unstoppable.
Which is interesting because Aries energy feels so independent. But the source is really pushing shared actions.
Yes. It says, courage grows as we unify unformed desires into goals that everyone can understand. We all have these vague wants, right? I want to do better, or I want this to succeed. Today is about crystallizing those so the whole team, your family, your colleagues, can actually get behind them.
So if you're trying to herd cats today, maybe stop chasing them and just open a can of tuna.
In a manner of speaking, yes. It's about aligning the goal. Choosing shared actions brings real progress. If you find yourself in a tug of war, you're doing it wrong.
Drop the rope.
Drop the rope. Find the current instead of fighting the tide.
Okay, so that's the mood, the pulse. But here's where it gets really interesting. We have to talk about the how. Because a goal is one thing, but execution, that's another.
And the mechanism for that today is a very specific aspect. Mars sextile Neptune.
This one is fascinating. Mars is drive, action.
The engine. The part that wants to get things done.
And Neptune is intuition, dreams, the fog.
Right. And in a sextile, they're not fighting. The source says they're dancing. They're working together.
And the phrase it uses is acting from principle rather than brute force.
That is the whole takeaway. If you try to force a result today, sheer willpower, aggression, the because I said so method, you're going to hit a wall. Mars without Neptune is just banging a hammer.
But if you inject your passion with what it calls soothing mysticism and soulfulness, things just click.
I know soothing mysticism sounds a little out there.
Yeah, how did that translate for someone just trying to get a budget report done by 5?
It's less about lighting candles and more about your mental approach. The source suggests even the most boring tasks benefit from creativity.
Like what?
So you're filling out that spreadsheet, maybe you put on some cinematic music, approach the data like you're decoding a mystery instead of just entering numbers.
So you're not just a cog in the machine, you're the ghost in the machine.
Exactly. It sounds trivial, but it's about the energy you bring. Ambitions and our intuition can align in a wonderful way. It's the difference between a mechanic who just cranks a wrench until the bolt strips.
And one who listens to the engine to hear what's actually wrong.
Today, you have to listen to the engine.
Which brings us to
Mm.
the heavyweight champion of this deep dive, the aspect that's causing that whole Power Day label, Sun conjunct Pluto.
This is massive. The sun is our core identity, our ego. Pluto is transformation, power, the underworld, when they are conjunct, sitting in the exact same spot,
It represents a visible power shift.
and an identity recalibration.
Yeah.
And the source does not mince words about what happens to systems that aren't working.
Structural changes, policy pivots, corporate shakeups.
It's the collapse of the inauthentic. The source notes that systems running on manipulation or fear-based authority come under major scrutiny. If a structure relies on fear to keep people in line, today is the day the cracks show.
There's a warning label on this one, though. It says this is intense and potentially nefarious energy. That word nefarious really jumped out at me.
It should. Pluto deals with primal stuff. Power battles, themes of sexuality coming to the forefront. It's raw energy. When power shifts, people get scared.
And scared people can get nasty.
They can. They might try to manipulate or coerce because they feel their grip slipping.
So what's the strategy? How do we win? Do we fight back with equal force?
No, that's the trap. That's the brute force we talked about. The source is very clear. Decisions made from fear lose traction. If you act because you're scared of losing, you've already lost.
But choice is rooted in, what was it? Self-respect, clarity, and responsibility.
Those gain power. It's about honesty. Honesty about what we are actually building. And, maybe more importantly, what needs to end so something else can begin.
The Pluto element, death and rebirth.
Exactly. You can't recalibrate your identity if you're still clinging to the old one.
Okay, so we have this intense astrological backdrop. Teamwork is key, intuition beats force, and fake power structures are crumbling. Now, to make this really stick, I want to pivot to the StoryScope.
The city that remembered its soul.
Yes. This story takes all those abstract ideas and puts them into a city called Axiom. And the setting is, it's hauntingly familiar.
It's described as a city that, for 3 centuries, mistook force for order.
I loved the imagery. Towers grown from algorithms, laws written by committees that had never touched the ground. It said power moved downward like pressure, invisible, yet absolute.
That is the negative Sun-Pluto dynamic in a nutshell. A rigid structure held up by fear. People obeyed not because they believed, but because resistance was inefficient.
The ultimate bureaucratic nightmare.
Until
The veil began to thin. And this is our Mars-Neptune moment. Enter Cirrus. She's a transit gate worker.
a very practical job. She's not a wizard. She's blue-collar. She deals with the daily commute. But she does something different.
She's calibrating a gate, but instead of following the manual, she feels a warmth in her hands, and she starts humming an old tune. She adjusts the gate by instinct.
And it works. It stabilizes faster than the computer predicted.
And her supervisor, representing that old, rigid authority, says, that shouldn't work.
And her reply is just so perfect.
It does. That is the vibe of today. It does.
That's the Mars sextile Neptune energy right there. She didn't break the machine. She aligned with it intuitively. She brought soulfulness to a mechanical task.
And this starts a ripple effect. It's
Yeah.
not just her. An architect starts sketching curves instead of mandated right angles. A policy analyst writes regulations in plain language.
And compliance goes up.
Right, because the force was removed and flow is introduced, showing that when you treat people like humans instead of data points, the system actually works better.
But of course, the old guard, the council, they notice. They see that fear isn't working anymore.
And they react just like you'd expect. They don't adapt, they clamp down. Tighter controls, harsher sanctions.
But the source notes something critical. The more they tighten control, the more brittle the system became.
Rigidity makes you breakable. And then things get surreal. Luminous sigils appear in the air.
This is that identity recalibration happening on a huge scale. The source says they weren't threats, they were mirrors. People looked at them and shed their old skins. Ambition no longer meant conquest, it meant alignment.
So everyone is waking up. But it's not all peaceful. There's conflict, that nefarious energy again. The source mentions people intoxicated by intensity without integrity.
That's the trap of today. Getting high in the power shift but not having the principles to ground it.
But Cirrus holds the line. The transit network starts rerouting itself around the obsolete parts of the city, and she gets hauled in front of the council.
The showdown.
The chair accuses her, "You are destabilizing the system." And her response, this is the line of the day for me. She says, "The system is remembering what it was meant to serve."
That is so profound. It implies the system wasn't evil. It lost its way, got lost in the metrics and forgot the mission.
And then, boom, The chamber trembles, the data towers dim, the algorithms collapse.
And notice how they collapse. Not from an outside attack. They collapse under their own weight because they were fed on compliance metrics that just weren't there anymore.
Yeah.
The fear evaporated, and so did their fuel.
By dawn, the council is gone.
Yeah.
Dissolved into committees with no authority but that which was freely granted.
The shift from power over to power with.
And the aftermath describes Axiom not as gentle, but as strong-willed. Power moved differently now, earned through clarity, sustained through responsibility.
The city stood taller, not because it dominated, but because it listened. That's the ultimate definition of the power available today.
So let's bring this all back down to earth. What does this mean for you listening right now? We have the astrology telling us to use intuition and teamwork.
Now we have the story telling us that fear-based systems are brittle and about to crack.
So the council in the story, they represent those outdated power structures from the Sun-Pluto forecast.
They're the parts of your life or your job that run on because I said so or because we've always done it this way.
And Sirius is that Mars sextile Neptune energy. She's the proof that trusting your gut, humming that tune, it actually gets better results than brute force.
Exactly. So Power Day isn't about you going out and dominating your colleagues. It's about that identity recalibration. It's about realizing that resistance is inefficient. True flow comes from being honest about what you're building.
It's recognizing that if you have to use fear or manipulation to get something done today, it's probably already dead. It just hasn't fallen over yet.
And conversely, if you can bring clarity and shared actions to the table, doors will open. Resources will flow. You stop fighting the gate and you start humming the tune.
It's a day to check your motives. Are you calibrating by protocol or are you listening to the hum?
And are you willing to let the old structures, the ones that don't serve the purpose anymore, just collapse? That's the scary part of Sun Pluto. Letting go.
Okay, so here's your cheat sheet for today. 3 steps. 1. Inject some creativity into the boring stuff. Find the art in the mundane. Don't just turn the crank.
2. Look out for power struggles. If someone tries to use fear on you, don't engage. Stand in your principles and that brittle system will collapse on its own.
And 3. Be honest about who you are becoming.
The quote to live by today is, "Shed outdated roles so our contributions reflect who we are becoming." Don't be the council, be serious.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with something to chew on. In the story, those symbols in the air acted as mirrors.
They showed people the truth of their ambition.
Right, so it raises an important question. If a mirror appeared above your current work or your project right now, showing you its true soul rather than its metrics, would you like what you see?
That's a heavy one.
But hey, it's a power day. You can handle it. Thanks for diving deep with us.
We'll catch you next time.